Thanks for coming over. This is Amodeus. I have a great video planned out for today, and I want to make sure everyone gets involved in the conversation in the comments below, because this is really going to be for the beginners looking for help with raids after Update 4. Now, I know I try to answer as many questions as possible when I'm doing videos or I'm online, but a lot of my answers have changed since Update 4, and I thought it was time to do a beginner's guide to reflect that so I could just point to one video and say, hey, just watch this, right? So if you've been playing for a while, you already know a lot of this stuff and a whole bunch more. Which is why I want to ask you to share your number one piece of advice down in the comments below for the beginners in this post-Update 4 world. So when I went back and I kind of looked at all the questions I've got, I think that the questions I get can really be covered by answering two questions, and I want to address those today. Now the first question is, how do I beat X raid? And the second question is Champion X any good? And I'm going to start with the how do I beat X raid, since more often than not during the course of our conversations online, I realized that this actually answers question 2. So as a beginner, if you want to be able to beat a raid, you need to understand how the raid works. So let's start with the mechanics. Every raid has two parts, the waves and the boss. The waves are just a series of opposing champion teams you need to survive before you get to the boss. And surviving these waves in Elder Drake just means having enough HP to take the attacks while dishing out damage to kill the opponents. And this is why I recommend gearing all of your early Elder Drake units with 3 or 4 star gear that has HP percent. Now, especially on the shoulder, gloves, and bracers where you can have HP percent, that's where it's most important to have it. But if you can get it in the subsets too on the rest of your gear, that's great. If you have questions about that, please drop them down in the comments below. I'd be happy to clarify. The team you see on the screen right now doesn't have any gear though. What they do have is they have max 4 stars, and some of them are awakened. And I thought not having any gear on them would compensate for that difference, right? So a key to surviving waves more consistently early on is by having champions that have higher HP, which means higher levels or more stars, as well as making sure that one of your champions can heal, right? And if your champion can heal based on their HP versus the target's HP, it's always better, because this means you can build them with your very best HP gear and not worry about everyone else missing out, since everyone will get the benefit from their improved heals, right? And this is why you actually see the Water Boon Sister on the team. Now, I think that kind of addresses the waves. If you put those things together, you're going to get through the waves. So now that we have the survivability to get through the waves, we can talk about the boss. In Elder Drake, 1 through 5, this means talking about the Elder Drake and his crystals. So before we jump to the Elder Drake, let's discuss the crystals real quick. So the left crystal lowers defense on you, and the right crystal buffs attack on the Elder Drake. Now, the best way early on, I think, to overcome this buff and debuff is to have a champion that can make you immune to debuffs, and a champion that can remove or strip the buff debuffs on the Elder Drake, right? So this is why you see the Water Ranger and the Fire Boon Sister on this team. The Water Ranger will give us immunity from all of those debuffs, basically nullifying the towers, and the Fire Boon Sister can strip off the attack buff that gets put on the Elder Drake, meaning he hits a lot less hard. So now that we have a way to handle the crystals, we can go ahead and start looking at the Drake itself. The key thing to understand about the Elder Drake is that it will fly away after you reduce its HP by half. So obviously the goal is to reduce it by half. And if you think about what we just did for crystals and apply it in reverse to your team, it makes a little bit more sense about some ways to do that, right? So for instance, if you think the Elder Drake wants to, lower your defense and raise its own attack, it should stand to reason that you want to do the same thing. Now, luckily, the Boon Sister that also removes the buff applies an attack buff as well as heal, and she lowers defense. She's a great unit to have here. That's why she's on the team. Now, one of the things about dealing damage early on I think is really helped is by having an attack speed buff. This means you're going to attack faster, and a little bit of attack speed is going to go a long way with most champions, and ultimately it's going to help you deal more damage. And this, in all honesty, this is why the Fire Ranger is on the team. So, like I said, once the Elder Drake flies away after you do half of its damage, you're going to have to start dealing with waves again. And this goes a lot smoother if you have an AoE damage dealer like Sigrun or Rhoda on your team. both of which are 100% free to play and in fact given to you at the beginning of the game for just this reason. Now, I don't have a 4-star of either of them because they're so good. I've 6-starred both of them. So what I did is I plugged in Derby Girl for the extra damage. And the reason that you would be better served by having Rhoda or Sigrun is that AoE damage attack that they have the ability to do really helps out in the raid, because as you can see in the raids that are running in the background, the Elder Drake has a wide fire breath, right? So if you can deal damage into that fire breath without being there, then basically you're getting damage for free on those units, and there's no chance that you're going to die, which is great, right? So range attacks, AoE attacks, they're all really, really good. So, like I said, you could replace the Derby Girl with just about anybody. I just happened to have a Derby Girl handy, so I tossed her in there. Now, one of the things I would like to say, though, is that once you beat Elder Drake 5, you then open up Steel Widow. And Steel Widow is an entirely different conversation from Elder Drake. But you should be able to run this team you see in front of you all the way through Elder Drake 5 pretty consistently, as long as you put a couple of gear pieces on it, right? And then you have the ability to really kind of farm Elder Drake a couple hundred times to kind of get the gear that you want to get. And then once it becomes pretty routine, pretty consistent, and you have some relatively decent gear, then you can start looking at other content, right? Start, for instance, Steel Widow. You can look at the higher levels of Elder Drake, because then you'll have a little bit better understanding of exactly what's going on as far as like the mechanics and stuff like that. But now I want to make this a conversation. I want to open it up to everybody. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you have a great day. Leave some comments down below if you're an older player, or not older, we're all old at this point, I think. The video's been so long. But if you are a more experienced player, let's say that, leave your advice down in the comments below. But if you're a new player, there are no stupid questions, so just get it out there, find out what's going on. And as always, thanks for watching the videos. Hope you got something out of it. Have a great day. Bye.